Welcome to Conversations at the Crossroads, the podcast where spirituality meets the beautiful, messy experience of being a human. I'm Jenny. I'm a tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, a witch, a mentor, a hairstylist, and the voice behind Conversations at the Crossroads. Each week, we gather here at the Crossroads to explore spirituality, personal growth, and the tools that help us navigate an ever-evolving human journey. Some conversations will dive into the mystical, others into the practical, and sometimes we'll sit together through some hard stuff. Along the way, we may explore ideas that challenge us, stories that shift our perspective, or practices that help us walk our path with a little more intention. So, wherever you're listening from, take a breath, settle in, and join me on the crossroads. Welcome back to the Crossroads. Buckle up because it might get a little emotional. I might cry. My voice might shake. But I'm just going to show up as authentically as I can and not censor that so that you can really feel the impact. This weekend, I attended Elevate and Inspire. It was a 2-day event hosted by Elizabeth Henson, who is a business coach here in the local area. But her reach is far and wide, honestly. And my experience was so amazing that I really wanted to bring it here and really talk about my experience over the weekend. But to do that, I have to include the week before. So let me set the scene for you before I get to the good stuff, because honestly, the good stuff wouldn't have hit the same if the week leading up to it hadn't really wrecked me first. The week before Elevate and Inspire was one of those weeks. I had some conflict in an area of my business that was really, truly difficult for me to face. It was one of those weeks where your nervous system doesn't really get a break. I had a conflict that on the surface may sound like just a business thing, but for someone like me with PTSD, there's no such thing really as just a business thing when it touches the thing that you've built your whole life around. I spent that week nauseous, crying from time to time. It was that specific kind of dread that sits in your chest and won't let you fully breathe all the way. The feeling was like the rug was about to get pulled out from under me, that everything that I worked for could just shift or crumble or be out of my hands entirely, even if that wasn't necessarily the case. But that's the part that really gets into my head, that total loss of control. Not even a guarantee that something bad was going to happen, just the possibility of it, and my nervous system treating it like it already had happened. I started to do what I do when I spiral a bit, is I started analyzing. If the shoe dropped, what would I do? If a huge piece of my world suddenly wasn't mine to control anymore, who would I be on the other side of that? What would I rebuild? What would I want to rebuild? I don't say any of this for sympathy. I say it because I know that some of you know this feeling. The ground feeling unstable under a dream that you've been tending to, and how exhausting it is to keep showing up anyways. But something shifted in me when I woke up that morning. I had been gifted my spot at this event. Elevate and Inspire is not a cheap conference. It is a very intentionally curated experience for people to take their businesses and their professional lives to the next level. The people who attend it go because they know what they're going to get out of it. And someone believed in me enough to put me in that room. And I sat with that and I decided I'm not going to bring last week's weight through that door with me. If someone believed in me that much, the least I could do is show up and really receive it. So I put on my Hype Girl playlist. I got myself together. I got in my truck. I left early with my Red Bull in hand so I could walk in grounded, caffeinated, and ready. And then I ran out of gas on the interstate. I literally felt my truck shutting down as we're going. I know. I know. My truck told me I had 20 miles to empty. 20 miles. It lied. But here's the thing. I didn't panic because within minutes of that truck rolling to a stop, I had 3 people ready to come to my rescue. One of them being someone most of you have heard of if you've listened to past episodes, my friend Marcy. 3 people, though, immediately with no hesitation offered to help. And I thought, okay, this is sign number 2 that I am supported, that people show up for me, that I'm not out here doing this alone, even if before it felt like I was. And I made it to the event. I was a little later than planned and a little more humbled about my estimation on gas efficiency than I expected to be. But I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And what happened inside that room, that's what I actually want to talk about today. When I walked through that door, Elizabeth Henson, aka Liz, was mid-sentence. I'd missed the very beginning, and I did feel a little bad about that. I felt bad sneaking in mid-sentence while she's up there speaking. But what was on the screen when I sat down stopped me in my tracks. It was ads from the 90s. And she was talking about why the most iconic slogans from that era still live in us in our society, like Nike's "Just Do It." The ones that never left. And her point was this: it was never about the product. It was always about the feeling. You aren't selling the thing. You're selling what makes someone feel, and not in a manipulative smoke and mirrors way. It was that when you genuinely are passionate about what you do and who you do it for, that feeling is what comes through. That is what you're marketing. That's your message. I didn't know yet that I had just walked in on the theme of my whole weekend. The next speaker was Megan Blacksmith, and she's an NLP coach, also local to the Hampton Roads area. NLP is a neuro-linguistic programming. And she said something that I wrote down immediately. And it's: the brain believes what you tell it. So tell it nice things. And she also said that 80% of our success comes from our psychology and only 20% is from the actual mechanics and the skill and the strategy that we obsess over. 80% is what's happening in our own minds. Then Liz took the stage again and brought it back to branding and to belief and to building your why from the inside out. And she gave us a fill in the blank. I am a blank, and what I'm really passionate about is blank. And I knew the second blank immediately. It was like it was already written somewhere inside me, and I was just waiting to be asked. I'm passionate about making people feel empowered, about helping people step into their own sovereignty with confidence. That part was clear as day. It was the first blank that really stopped me. Hairstylist. I wrote it because, my business is Henson Hair and I was there representing my business. So I wrote hairstylist, and it felt incomplete, like putting on a coat that used to fit perfectly and realizing somewhere along the way that you outgrew it without really noticing. So then I wrote which felt truer, but still not the whole picture. And I wrote a few different versions. And finally, I thought to myself, I guess I have some homework to do to really think this one through. And I tuned back in to what was happening in front of me on the stage. And something happened in the room that I don't know that anyone there will forget. Liz was doing her thing throughout the weekend, bringing people up to work through the material live in real time. And this woman was mapping things out, talking about her goals. And at some point, she said something that made it clear that she was describing what wasn't actually her dream. It was the thing that she was doing to pay the bills and get things in order while she worked towards what would eventually be referred to as her dreamy dream. And you could feel that move through the whole room. It was like a collective exhale. the group went, "Oh," that sound of recognition. And it felt like everyone heard themselves in her without even meaning to. So Liz erased the whiteboard and said, "Okay, let's talk about your dreamy dream." Because you have to 10 out of 10 want it to 10 out of 10 believe it. And even that verbiage stuck with me. Like, what is your 10 out of 10? What do you 10 out of 10 want to do? What do you 10 out of 10 believe you can do? That just really resonated with me. And I can't count how many times that message echoed over the course of the weekend. So the next day, when we broke out for our lunch and learns, where we went into small groups with the different speakers of the weekend, I chose to go to lunch. Last minute, I decided who I wanted to go to lunch with, and I got the last spot at the lunch and learn with Daryl, one of Liz's coaches. And when he was speaking about his story and in giving us his information and frameworks during lunch, he said something about where he came from, a trailer house in a small township in Michigan. And he didn't say it for sympathy. He said it in the way that people say things when they've already made peace with them. Matter of fact, and even grateful that that's where his beginnings were. And it resonated deeply with me because I know the feeling. And not the Michigan part, but the leaving, the having to leave. I grew up in a house chained to addiction, and I got out early. I was freshly 18 when I started hair school, and I got out of that household. I was working 2 full-time jobs and commuting 4 hours a day from Surrey County to riding the ferry across to Williamsburg to work, and then driving to Virginia Beach to go to night school so that I could get out of the situation that I had come from. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I was becoming something. I didn't have words for it yet. I just knew I was moving. And moving felt like survival. Hair school was my bridge out. Becoming a hairstylist wasn't just a career choice, it was an escape hatch. It was the first thing that was entirely mine that I could do to survive, to escape, to make a life for myself. And that life has been mine for 16 years. So sitting across the table from Daryl, listening to him talk about where he started and watching where he'd arrived, coaching and teaching and transforming people in this, just having this calming, sure, solid presence, something clicked inside of me that it was time. It was time to accept and admit the things that had been shifting from the beginning of the weekend, but also I think for a while, ever since I've been structuring my business and taking on side projects and doing other things alongside my business as a hairstylist. And this was the moment that I realized I really can let go and accept that, oh, this could be me. I could do more. I can be more. I am more. I was ready to say something out loud that terrified me. I don't dream of being a hairstylist anymore. There it is. I said it. Now, before you take that and run with it, let me be clear about what I mean. I'm not walking away from hair. I will always want to do it. I'll always want it woven into the things that I do because I believe deeply and truly in the magic that happens when someone looks in the mirror and really sees themselves and likes what they see. The little girl who feels pretty for the very first time. The person who needs to feel put together when they walk into a funeral home to say goodbye to someone they love. The one who gets to feel like a princess on the day that they marry their best friend. Those moments are sacred to me. And every single one of them is about the feeling. But I realized I can do so much more to create for those people, not just their look, but for the whole person. Liz said something that set a fire in me. She talked about her journey of being a photographer and a really successful one. And she talked about how she could have made an impact as a talented photographer, but the path she's on now, she's changing lives. And I felt that in my chest like a bell going off. That's what I want. I want to change lives. I want to take every hard thing that I've survived every time the ground shifted under me and I found a way to stand back up and turn it into something that helps other people do the same. I want to help people heal. I want to help people feel strong, help people move through grief and trauma and come out on the other side with the tools that actually work, with a sense of who they are and what they're capable of. I want to stand in front of a room full of people and be the one who helps them wake up to themselves. So I came back to fill in the blank, the identity, the feeling, and the why. And it was terrifying to release the grip on a dream that I have been living, standing in the first salon I ever worked in and thinking, this is it. This is my thing. Hair built me. This industry has given me a livelihood, a community, a purpose, a path. I truly believe that the 6 years I spent as a corporate educator in the hair industry set me up with the leadership skills and the ability to teach and connect with people so that I can teach and connect and use those skills in the spiritual community and in teaching on the spiritual path. But here's what I know now. I'm not letting all of that go. I'm letting it grow. I'm letting it grow into what it was always meant to be, a threshold, a teacher, a tool that carried me exactly where I needed to go so that I could become who I actually came here to this earth to be. The door was never the destination. It was just a way to get in. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. If that week hadn't broke me down the way it did, I don't know that I would have been cracked open enough to receive what I received in that room. When you've spent days in survival mode, white-knuckling your way through uncertainty and questioning everything you've built and everything you thought you wanted, you get stripped down and the noise falls away. And what's left is just you and the truth. I walked into Elevate&Inspire pretty raw and tender, even with my best intention to show up and receive as best as I could. And I was completely available for that shift. The conflict, the tears, the nausea, the dread, the running out of gas on the interstate, all of it. It wasn't happening to me. It was happening for me to make sure that I showed up to that room with nothing left to hide behind. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, I looked up and I saw them, the people who believed in me, waving at me from the other side of every hurdle that week tried to put in my way. The person that gifted me the seat to be there, Marcy, pulling up on the side of the interstate without hesitation and laughing laughing with me while we struggled to figure out how to even work the gas can to put into my truck. The three people who were ready to help me before I even had time to panic. The universe basically hollering at me, "We've got you. Now go get what you came for." And I got it. I want you to know that what I brought home from this weekend wasn't just the big soul level stuff, though that alone would have been worth every hard moment of the week before. I also came home with real and tangible business knowledge and tools and strategies that I'm genuinely so excited about. When I think about them, I don't feel the dread of, I've got work to do. I feel like, oh my gosh, I've got work to do. Things that are already shaping what's coming next for Henson Hair. So consider this your official heads up. There are new things coming, shifts you're going to notice, offerings being built, pieces coming together in ways that feel more aligned than anything I've ever put out before. I'm not ready to pull the curtain all the way back yet, but I want you to be watching because I think you're going to love what's on the other side of this. None of this would have happened without Elizabeth Henson. And I want to take a moment and say that out loud because, Liz, if you hear this, thank you genuinely from the bottom of my whole heart. I haven't even enrolled in your coaching program yet. It is a goal of mine. I would love to be in a place to do that, and I can't wait to be there because I will be. But you've already changed the trajectory of how I see myself and what I believe I'm here to do. That is the kind of impact that doesn't come from just knowing your stuff. It comes from someone who has done the work on herself and shows up to give it all the way every single time. And I really aspire to be that for somebody someday as well. And for those who are listening, if you're not already plugged in with Elizabeth Henson, I'm going to say her name over and over like that so you can go and Google it and find her. And I'll be plugging in how to find her in the description below as well. If you haven't, go find her now. Go check out her podcast, Messy Success. And I mean that for anyone who's listening, not just business owners, because what Liz brings transcends the numbers. Yes, she'll absolutely help you with the numbers too, and those do matter. But what she really does is help you find the belief underneath the business, the why that makes the how actually work. Whether you're building something or just building yourself, I'm willing to bet she has something for you. And in the words of Elisa Kay, one of the speakers from this weekend, fuck normal, I'm magic. Write that down, put it on your mirror, tattoo it on your brain, and sit with those words for me because you are magic. We're all magic. And it really reminds me and makes me cherish the slogan that I don't use enough for my business, and that is beauty is a right, glamour is liberation, and magic comes from within. So, as per usual, I have journal prompts for you to carry with you this week, or reflection points if you just want to take a second and think on them. What feeling are you actually selling, offering, or putting out into the world? I'm not just talking about work or a product or a service, but the feeling that you bring to the room. Is it what you want? If you had to fill in the blank right now, I am a blank, and what I'm really passionate about is blank. What comes up? And does the first blank feel complete, or does it feel like a coat you've outgrown? What is your dreamy dream? Not the practical dream, not the paying the bills dream, the one that scares you a little to say out loud because it feels too big or too far or too much. Write it down anyways. And finally, where in your life have you been so focused on the obstacle that you miss the people waving at you from the other side of it? You are supported and you are believed in. And if nobody else has told you this week, I'm telling you now. So be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself, and I can't wait to see you again on the crossroads. Thanks. Bye.